The farm life of Western Kentucky is the subject of our next artist's work. Memory painting is the folk art style of recreating scenes of a time gone by. For more than 70 years, this self-taught artist has been producing memorable works from her life.
I do what I do from memory. That's what I pay for. I just get to thinking about something and I said, well, I remember how that was. I believe I put it on paper or canvas or whatever. I guess it's just a way of reliving it all again. Oh, I started drawing a long time ago, long before I could write, because my mom used to hold my hand and help me to draw things. And she liked to draw too. My mom and my daddy just gave me that name. I guess they liked it for some reason. And then too, that was right after the war, you know, World War I. See, I was born in 1919, and that was right after the war was over. My parents were James Franklin and Lily Mae Ligon Orr. And people called her Hun, and his name was Bud. He was a farmer, grew tobacco and corn. We worked in the field most of the time. And we grew peanuts and potatoes and peas and beans and just stuff like that, you know. Of course, my father and my mother, they grew hogs and cows. And I always had a garden. We just had tobacco patches, you know. People have tobacco fields now. And we didn't grow barley because it just came in after my father, you know, retired from farming. We didn't have tobacco setters like they do now. You set the tobacco out with a wooden peg, you know, you make a hole in the ground, put your plant in it, and like that, and go on to the next one. Oh, your back would get so tired, and that peg would make a blister in your hand. And finally you get it all out, and the next thing would be hoeing it. And then you have to hoe it and grow it up. You cut the stuff down with a knife, and you have to cut it down, and you split it with a knife, and then hang it on a stick. They don't do that now, they spike it on the stick. Then you put it on the wagon and put it in the barn and put it up on these things they call tiers. And people go up there and hang it up in the barn, then you make a smoke under it. My daddy used to chew tobacco, and he'd make out it was ever so good, you know. Go ahead and try it. So my sister next to me, she tried it, and I tried it, and it made us so drunk we just laid down on the ground all the rest of the evening and couldn't stand up. The whole world was just going round and round. Mom come home and she said, what's the matter with these kids? She said, oh, they tried some sweet tobacco. My daddy said. This used to be a busy place for trains, you know, and you couldn't go down to Viola across that track without you and have to wait for a train, and then you could hear the train whistle. They had one called Whiskey Dick. Going to Paducah, I read. I didn't know then what to tell me, because that's what they used it for, to bring whiskey back from Paducah. It wasn't anywhere for real, but when Mr. Glisson was living, that's a long time ago, when we were kids, he had a grocery down there, and he had everything in his store. He sold shoes and boots and cow feed and hog feed and plows and just anything. It was a general merchandise store. And I guess I still remember some of that. He was in Viola too. My daddy didn't want us to go to carnivals, and they never did let us go to dances and parties and things like that. But when I got grown up, I went to a carnival once. We got on that Ferris wheel, my sister next to me and we got on that thing, and I never was so scared in my life. I never went to Mayfield to live till I was, oh my, 20-some odd years old. And I stayed there about 30 years off and on, because I'd stay a while and come back out here and stay. And this is the last time I've been. I think I'll stay this time. Well, I never did like to work at anybody's house, and I worked at the hospital, and I was a tray girl at the hospital, and then I was a cook at the hospital, and I have cooked at restaurants, and then I worked at the Roman Ceramic. I worked there about 7 years. It's where they made ceramics, you know. Whiskey bottle is what they were making mostly. I never did quit trying to paint and trying to draw. I always thought that someday I'll have time to do something worthwhile. I worked in that school bus about 2 years. You see all the little windows in there? The sun would just come right straight through. And then it was metal, you know, and just like being in a oven, I guess, with the oven turned on. But I didn't notice it so much. I raised the windows, and when I raised the windows, the squirrels and the birds would come in. Well, it used to be when they first built this building, I was trying to work, you know, at night, and I couldn't work out here at night because I could just imagine all kinds of faces looking through the windows. And there'd be some big old long-faced ugly horses and snakes and everything. I just couldn't work at night. I come out here about 7 o'clock. First I go all around and see how my things are growing, then I go to work. I don't get tired, my eyes get tired, and I have to stop and let my eyes rest, but then I don't get tired. I think I have to hurry up because if I live to be 80, that wouldn't be very much longer. I do the background first. I used to just work on one thing at a time, and I'd have to stop and let it dry. And now I notice if you start on 2 or 3 things while one is drying, you'd be working on another. That was on the second Sunday in June. That's when they had the big day. That was, they called it the homecoming day. And they'd have dinner on the ground when we were little kids. That's where they put the dinner on the ground. Everybody sit on the ground and eat. We went early and we'd stay late. There'd always be some people from out of town coming home. Chicago and Detroit and Gary, Indiana. There'd always be a big crowd. But that's when it's fun, when I can get to thinking about something and then paint it as I think of it. Yeah. I don't want to ever stop, but you never know what might happen to you, and so I'm always halfway prepared for that day.